Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of our Back to Life podcast. You know, if you're like most people, and certainly like me over the years, you've probably said to yourself more than once, or asked yourself the question, I wish I could just find my purpose. Well, if you're interested in your purpose, you ought to listen to the podcast we have now. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 7 with Lori Saitz. I was introduced to Lori by a friend of mine, and thought about having her on the podcast, and when we first connected for just a brief call, I thought, oh my gosh, we have to. So you're going to listen to Lori. She's got tremendous background. She does wonderful coaching. She's got a website called Zen Rabbit, and you'll find out more about that. But something we dug into right away was this difference between purpose, this big question of purpose that sometimes is very overwhelming and daunting. And Lori said, or you could think about it and just answer what brings you joy. And I thought that was a pretty interesting approach. I asked her about what percentage of people does she think really know what their purpose is and kind of arrange their life around it. And that was interesting to hear. She said the idea of this work-life balance has always been kind of odd to her, that it's not separated, it's just your entire life. And there's areas we need to focus on, and more importantly, there's boundaries that we need to establish in some areas. Lori talks about a wonderful thought that she has where she says, fine. You know, everybody says, it's fine. How are you? Well, I'm fine. How's your relationship? Well, it's fine. How's your job? Well, it's fine. And she says that fine is a 4-letter word. That is the title of her podcast. It's pretty cool. And then she also talks about a program that she has called Fine to Fantastic. So I think you're really going to enjoy it. And listen as well when she talks about this trilogy for success. 3 things that are very, very important, that are vital for us as we move through transitions in our life and live more into our purpose and more into things that bring us joy. And those 3 things, the trilogy for success, is gratitude, connections, and courage. So thanks a lot for listening. If you know anybody that you think will enjoy this as well, certainly share it, post it out to your social media, give us some comments, put up some reviews and some ratings on iTunes and all those other places that you may be listening to our podcast, Back to Life, Finding Fulfillment After 50. So here we go. Enjoy the show. Well, hello, Lori, and welcome to our podcast. I certainly appreciate you being here. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure to be here.
So, when you and I spoke about coming on the podcast, we were connected through our friend, Tab Scott, and we talked a lot about purpose. And, our podcast is really designed to support people on this journey of life around their fulfillment. And I think purpose is a really big part of that. How do you define purpose?
Purpose to me is a really big word. Sometimes it can be intimidating because it's like, what's my life's purpose? It's so heavy and overarching. And I think people get caught up in what is my purpose? How do I find it? Mm-hmm. And it becomes this really difficult feeling. So I'm not sure I subscribe to the ability to find like your overall purpose, but finding what brings you joy seems a little easier, or at least in phrasing.
Yeah. I saw purpose, the definition, something is the reason for which something exists. So yeah.
Right. So what is my reason for existence? It's so big.
Yeah, I know. And then you go, oh, just that question. We're fine.
Yeah.
We can solve that over a cup of coffee. So with your work, we'll get you the work that you do now, but younger and growing up, I mean, where was your purpose, your joy? What was it like for you? Did you always have it, or were there tough times?
I feel like I really didn't discover what that real purpose or true direction was until just recently, actually. Well, okay, so let's step back. I think I found it when I was starting school, when I was starting college, but I let other people talk me out of it because I didn't have enough self-confidence to stand in what I believed I could do. And so then for the next 30, 35 years, I had a lot of fun. I loved what I did, and I believe that everything happens the way it happens. But the thing I was really supposed to do, that is my true purpose. I just got back to it.
Yeah. How many people do you think, out of, on average, do some type of work that really is not connected to their purpose? Because
I think
like you said, they somebody else tells them this is what they should do, or, the paycheck, or the fear of, could I go out and create something else for myself? What do you find with folks that you work with?
The majority of them have issues, especially when they were younger, but then it plays out throughout their life of somebody told them they couldn't make money doing whatever it was they loved, or they had this belief. In fact, I had somebody on my podcast just recently who she felt like in order to raise a family, she had to settle down in suburbia and have a 9-to-5 job. And that was not at all who she was, but she felt like in order to have a family, that's what she had to do. So she just sucked it up for 20 years until she couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
So I think most people have been conditioned by parents, by society, by whomever, to believe that what they truly want to do is not possible.
Yeah. Yeah. But how much of your purpose really is connected to the work that you do? Is there a strong connection there, or do you see purpose as a larger playing field, and then your career and your work is just a piece of that? How do you see that?
I see it as being completely ingrained in what you do. So for me, it is my career, my professional life. I guess for some other people, it doesn't have to be. I know of people who find purpose outside. They go to a job and they make money at their job, and then their purpose is fulfilled in volunteer work or in caring for their family or doing things other than their actual job.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. So many people kind of have that purpose connected to just one area of their life, versus to say, the reason that I exist, right? My purpose is to fulfill my roles and obligations in all these different areas. So if one of those areas is out of whack, right? Be it a relationship, be it your career, be it your health, whatever, then that's where you kind of have to do the work.
I agree. Yeah. The idea of work-life balance has always seemed odd to me, because to me, work and life, it's all integrated.
Yeah.
At the same time, I don't think that you can necessarily cut it down the middle and go 50% here, 50% here, or even if you had 8 pieces of that pie and it was, religion and family and career and financial, whatever, however you want to divide it up, that it could be equally divided all the time. I feel like it's constantly moving, but it's in sync.
Yeah.
Maybe balance is not, it's not perfectly balanced like a scale, but it's in sync.
Right. I just had a conversation the other day with a friend of mine. She's a wonderful leader. She runs a GM of a very, very large hotel property out in Scottsdale. And we were having that same conversation around, burnout and this work-life balance thing. And that's what I offered to her too, that, work and life, I would just take those 2 words away. And as you said, balance is really, and it's an individual equation for people. So if somebody's charging real hard and they're really set on career goals, to you and me, it may not look like a balance, but for them, it's absolutely perfect. That's where they need to put their focus right now. I think the balance concept is a place of where am I placing my focus, right? Which is my energy and my attention. And if you've got those areas of life figured out to the best of your ability right now, and you're really focused on them and you're feeling good, I think that's really, purpose.
Yeah. Sometimes you're going to need more time and attention to the career. Sometimes it's going to be family. Sometimes it could be your health, whatever it is. It's always moving.
So fluid. What would you say to somebody that says that I got to leave my job because I have to find balance?
Do it. I mean, if it's a toxic environment, then you need to do that to save yourself, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
I can see that for the toxic with the people, though. Sometimes I see people, I need work-life balance because this, I'm just working too much at my job. And, I always try to say, okay, that's one option. That's a possibility for you. And how could you work less at your job?
Right. Maybe they have an issue with boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's a lot of times it's boundaries. I think it's a lot of time, effective. And, there's a sense of, if I'm not here, everything's going to go to hell. And, I think people really have to get past that. With your folks that you work with, right? To take them, I know one of the words you use, everybody says, oh, it's fine. My relationship's fine. My marriage is fine. And you have a whole play on from fine to talk a little bit about that concept of things in life being fine.
Yeah, fine. My program is called Fine to Fantastic. Mm-hmm. It's a 12-week program. And then my podcast is called Fine is a 4-letter word, because so many people in our age range say everything's fine. It's really not fine. Like they're used to saying it's fine because they don't want to draw attention to themselves, or they don't want to discuss with the person they're talking to, like really what's really going on. I don't want to burden them with my issues, or it's really something there must be something wrong with me because everything I have is great, but I don't feel fulfilled. That whole idea of everything's fine and not wanting to rock the boat, because also fine can be a very comfortable place. Right. It's familiar, it's comfortable. It's not fulfilling, but it's comfortable.
Yeah. Do you see, or do you think, how old are you?
55.
55. All right. I'll be 58 in November. Do you see that this loss of purpose, lack of purpose, everything in life is fine? Do you see that becoming more prevalent as we get into our 50s and 60s?
I think it becomes, I don't know if it becomes more prevalent or becomes more apparent. We start out in our early 20s. Life is beautiful. We're expecting, we have all these goals and a whole life ahead of us. Mm-hmm. And then we get into our late 40s, 50s, and you look back and you're like, what just happened? Mm-hmm. Like, where did those years go? Yeah. And now, and I don't have any children, but a lot of people that I work with and my friends have children who are now moving out of the house. Right. And so they don't have their purpose in raising their children as much anymore. And at the same time, our parents are passing away. Mm-hmm. And so now we're looking at things and going, okay, what now? Mm-hmm. So that's why it's becoming more apparent.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And I've certainly seen it in my life with me and my wife, as the kids go into empty nest and we just downsized, and, you sell the home where you raise the kids, and you're right. Yeah. Parents are getting older, and people are getting sick and we're losing some friends. What do you say to somebody then when they come to you and they say, I'm stuck, I just feel like, blah, like life's just going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that purpose that you were talking about earlier, that purpose or that joy, what it is that brings you joy, it's in there. Mm-hmm. It's in there. It's a matter of, in part, getting quiet enough to hear it. Mm-hmm. So we keep ourselves so busy so that we don't have to feel the feelings, feel the emotions. Yeah. And so slowing down, and I'm a big meditator. I meditate every morning, and I recommend it to all of my clients and pretty much everybody I talk to. But but it's that opportunity to get quiet and hear that inner truth, if you will. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's really important for people to hear that are listening, is to take some time away and just let it settle. In daily meditation, or even a day or two quick retreat somewhere, into nature or wherever they go, because I do think that's the case. I also think, how do you think our values are connected to our purpose?
I don't think most people are clear on what their values are. So again, it's hard to know how to align yourself with your values if you haven't taken the time to figure out what they are. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I do an exercise with folks where I just put up a list of our human values. And, you can go out, anybody listening could go out on the website, just go out and Google, human values, and they would come up.
And they're all very similar. You know, some people put a different spin, but it's really interesting when I have them, you know, capture 5 or 8 values and then assign a number to them, 1 to 5. 5 says I'm living into this value very, very strongly. 1 is, you know, I say it's a value, but my life is not structured, you know, to support that value. And I have them put a number on there and then, you know, ask them what needs to change for them to live more into their values. And then the second question, as you and I know as coaches, is what gets in the way? Why is that not a 4 or 5 now? Because you can't, unless you see what's getting in the way right now, you know, then you can't see what you need to do to eliminate that, you know, make that go away.
Right. And being honest about what's getting in the way.
Sure. And also, you know, I think just understanding that life is this journey. And if you have a value of family, right, and you have a few children and a significant other, a partner, and, you know, the kids are young and they're in grade school and then high school and they're in the home and college, but they come back, you know, and then they move, right? They move across the country or whatever. A lot of people feel that lack of purpose, that lack of, you know, worth. But you have to understand, and I often tell them, you know, you still value your family.
Right.
You know, it's still a strong value for you. What you need to figure out is how can you live more into that versus, you know, you get up in the morning, you do their, you know, you make their lunch, you send them to school. That's not available anymore. So how else could you, you know, arrange your life where you're living into this value of family?
Right. Exactly. How do you adjust?
Right.
And maybe, again, when we talk about fluidity and instead of balance, is what are your other values? And maybe those take precedence now.
Right.
Not that family becomes unimportant, but it's a different way. And so maybe the other values get pushed up a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. In your work with people, what are the top 2 or 3 areas in which they struggle?
They're struggling in finding their, like when you talk about what's their purpose, that's what that's the words they use because everybody's been so conditioned to what is my purpose.
And when you start to pull that thread with them, you know, as a coach, what areas of their life show up? Do they start talking about work? Do they start talking about their relationship? Do they start, you know, what areas of their life when you kind of dig underneath that word purpose?
Yeah. I mean, all areas, but typically it's career and marriage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people are struggling with that again, because I know for me, when my mom passed away 7 years ago and I started asking the question, what do I want to live the next 20 years the same way I've lived the last 20? And what will I do differently? And so
that's a hell of a question.
Yeah.
You got me thinking right now. If I seem like preoccupied, I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Do I want to live the 20 years? Is saying that's a great question.
And people, again, they know the answer. A lot of times they're afraid to take the steps they need to take to do things differently.
To create,
so for my clients, I take them through what I call the trilogy for success. And that is gratitude, connections, and courage. Because that last piece of courage is what you need to really move off of fine.
Right.
That's where we stand on the edge, looking over, terrified to take the leap.
Right. So that's where you move from fine to fantastic.
Well, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And tell me again in those 3, what's it called? I like that.
Trilogy for success.
The trilogy, and the 3 of them are?
Gratitude.
Right.
Connections.
Right.
Courage.
Gratitude, connections, and courage. Let's dig into them a little bit. Gratitude. Talk a little bit why it's so important for us to be grateful for what we have in our life.
Ooh, this is one of my favorite topics.
Yes.
Because if you can't be grateful for what you have, how can you have more? I think that's an Oprah quote.
Okay. We'll give that to Oprah.
But gratitude.
She's had some good insights.
She has. Gratitude, though, everything, if you can look at any situation with gratitude, to find some shred of gratitude, let's say, even if the situation doesn't look good and bad or judgments, but if it doesn't look like it's something that you could be grateful for.
Sure.
I mean, look at the things that you've been through that initially didn't seem like it was a positive thing in your life, but you could find gratitude out of it.
Yeah.
Regardless. Just when you can come at life with an attitude of gratitude. I'm not,
right. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that
phrase,
before
but
from the stage.
Yeah. But it changes how you look at things, changes everything, how things come to you. When you're in a more grateful state, you attract more good into your life.
Yeah, I think that's so important, right? That's what somebody said to me when we're in challenging times, right? And I appreciate that you said good and bad is judgment. There are times in life, though, where they're really challenging for people. They're up against it, know, and people have said to me sometimes, well, what really can I be thankful for right now in this? And I just offer to them that, you could be thankful right now for this opportunity to make your life better again.
Yes.
And they
exactly.
go, so I should be, I share with some of the Stoic philosophers I like to read. I get the daily email, and it's, it was Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus and Seneca and some of these philosophers that they said, I forget who said it, but they said, I feel sorry for you if you've not experienced misfortune, because you know not how great you could be. So it's not that notion of walking around looking for doom and gloom.
Right.
It is, though, when it comes to go, well, shit, okay, I didn't want this, and it's just life, and let me see how this is going to support me to kind of grow and move through it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. So then the second one, connections.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's right on the heels of gratitude. What's the importance of our connections?
So there are several different ways to look at connections. And in the program, we go through that. So it's connections with your family, connections with your friends, connections with your partner, the connections with your community. And then most importantly, connection with yourself. Again, coming back to what I said earlier about getting quiet and connecting with your own inner truth.
Yeah, I like that. I'm a big fan of Bronnie Ware, who wrote the book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And I think it's number 2 or 3, I forget, but I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends.
Yeah.
Is the regret. So very, very important for people to have those connections. And I think to be, authentic, as you said, when you're not feeling like you have that sense of purpose, when you're feeling like you're in a rut, I do it all the time now. My sister's my best friend, and I've got some other wonderful people in my life. And I oftentimes I'll just tell them, I say, man, I feel like shit. I'm sad, because it really helps to talk through it versus to kind of work through it. There's a little bit of working through it ourselves, right? Through stillness, through stillness for sure. And I think it's really important for folks listening to understand that it's okay in life to go up and down and to have crappy days and to get in some ruts. It's just not, it's not okay to stay there. So that's why I was
exactly
excited to talk with you about, because you have these good strategies for people, that might be listening to this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We are human. So there's no way around that. Yep. And humans have emotions, and sometimes you're going to feel sad. Sometimes you're going to feel angry. It's all okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel those feelings. In fact, it's imperative to feel those feelings.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way through them. Yeah.
Yeah. I was having a conversation. It's great. I was having a conversation with a client yesterday that is dealing with some stuff. And, I offered to him that's, it can be okay, because the definition of okay for people, they think it's not okay. The definition of okay is that somebody either agrees with or accepts. So that's the key. The key is you don't have to agree with what you're going through. You don't have to agree with what somebody did to you. Although they didn't do it to you, they did it because they are who they are. Right. But the key is, can I be okay because I accept where I am right now, what that person did, how they operated from a different set of values.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's so important.
I heard I do a lot of different guided meditations. And one meditation I heard recently was what you resist persists. We've heard that a million times.
Yeah.
What you accept can be changed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so key, right? Accept and work through it. So in terms of connections, how important is connection with I'll just say God, and you could use synonyms, spirit, source, universe.
Yeah.
How important is that in your work for you personally? And do you bring that into your work with other people?
Yes, to both questions. So yeah, again, it's, to me, universe, God, spirit is that inner voice.
Okay.
It's getting quiet. Prayer is, I talk about meditation a lot, and I feel like prayer is also a form of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
It was Wayne Dyer who said prayer was you talking to God, and intuition was God talking to you.
Yeah.
And so that's that same, I talk about intuition's inner truth, inner voice.
Right.
To me, it's all the same thing, but it's that exchange of, conversation, whether you're speaking out loud or silently in your head, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is crucial to a sense of self, a sense of purpose, a sense of calm and groundedness, which is something that a lot of people are looking for right now, and struggling to find. They find themselves in massive chaos and struggle to find a sense of balance. And when you can find a conversation, there's that book, Conversations with God, but when you can get yourself into one, that's where you can ground yourself and not be, pushed all over the place by the winds of life.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. Like Wayne Dyer. Yeah. For me, I had that interesting experience where I died when I was 28. I got electrocuted, me and my friend, and tragically, he passed. That's what I offer to people too. I mean, our heart and our brain and our lungs, we certainly need those for our body to work. And I believe that there's an energy, our intuition, our soul, our spirit, a divine energy that's in all of us that really makes us go. That's what makes us go. Yes. So to work with your purpose, it's like, okay, why then did this universe, God, create Danny Bader? What that divine energy that came from our source? What's the purpose for Danny Bader with that? And I think, as you said, it's so important just to sit in quiet and really to do the work to cultivate that relationship between you and your intuition or your divine energy.
And it is work because, when you sit and again, we have so many distractions in our world. And now we have even more than ever before with social media and all of the electronics that we have. Right. To really what you're doing is you rewiring your brain. Yeah. And that takes work. You're running new neural pathways. Right. Yeah, it does take work. And there's a lot of resources out there for people. Yes. The ones that are listening, as you said, there's books and there's podcasts and there's different courses you can go through. I would just strongly encourage people to find that, do the work, email me, email Lori, just do a Google search, finding my purpose, which again, I don't think you find your purpose. I think you create it. That's the byproduct of doing the work. You create it or you uncover it. Yeah. You can't just sit there and wait for it to magically appear. No, it's not going to just drop out of the sky on you. No, it's not. And then, so here's something that I talk to people a lot about too, is how do I find my purpose? And you can find it in taking small steps. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to see the whole vision. What's the next right step that you feel like you could take? Yeah. Take that. Yep. And then the next one will show up, and then the next one will show up, and keep following that path. That's wonderful wisdom right there. I agree with that so much. It's just my sister always says, what's one thing I can do right now to move towards this? Yeah. Whether it be health, relationships. And then, so courage is the third one, right? Right. Right. So courage. How do you define courage? What is it? Do we all have it? How do we get more? What do you think about that? I do believe we all have it. It's accessing it. Right. And again, this comes back to why connections are so important, because it's often really hard to find courage by yourself. Mm-hmm. So if you could have somebody who's holding your hand. I haven't been skydiving yet, but have you been? No. Okay. they don't throw you out of the plane on your own the first time.
Right.
You go tandem.
Right. Yeah. That's it. You're strapped on.
So it's kind of the same idea. I think courage is a muscle. Mm-hmm. The more you use it, the stronger it gets, the easier it gets to use courage. I don't believe that anyone is just courageous without fear. Like, you can still feel the fear and do the thing anyway. Mm-hmm. Tying that all together, courage is, I don't know exactly how to define it, because people called me courageous. So the question of what do I want to live the next 20 years the same way?
Right.
I lived the last, and that answer was no. And I chose to leave my marriage after almost 25 years.
Wow.
And people said I was courageous. Mm-hmm. And I kept resisting that term because it didn't feel courageous.
Right.
It just felt hard and sad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. You have that fear. And a lot of times there's areas of our life, especially in the relationships, where we want something else, but the other, it takes two to tango.
Right.
The other person is in there too. And they may go, what are you talking about? Everything's fine, as you said.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And, whoever is sitting there going, well, it is fine, I guess. And I don't want fine.
Right.
I want, as you said, I got another 20 years left on this planet, maybe. And the kids are raised and we love them. And now let's go, that's you and me.
Yeah.
What do you say to somebody where the other person's not, they're going, oh, you're crazy. Everything's fine. Do you think then you just got to walk?
There are two different ways to approach that. In fact, the interview I did for my podcast yesterday was with a woman who chose to do she had done a lot of work on her own, and she chose to take a specific course somebody had recommended to her.
Okay.
And do even more work on herself. And she changed her energy of how she was showing up in the relationship. And now their marriage after 25 years is better than ever.
Great.
So it could go either way. It just depends on who you are and what you see as your path forward.
Right.
And sometimes it's going to be with the other person and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of discerning which one is it.
Yeah.
And not because it's easier. Like, staying would be easier.
Oh yeah, sure.
But sometimes that's not what's meant to be.
Right.
And so,
I think
but I think regardless, it always comes back to doing the work on yourself. You cannot force somebody else whether they want to do the work or not. It's not their responsibility. Right. It's your responsibility to work on you.
That's it. Yep. And not control the other person. Influence, perhaps, difference.
Yeah.
Influence versus control. No, I think that's a good point. How do you work with people when they lose their sense of purpose, or they get, they just get down or flat, they can't move on after they've lost a child? You ever work with anybody that's lost a child?
So I have a really good friend who went through that situation. And so I wasn't working with her in a professional capacity. I just was there as a friend.
Well, that's great. And you helped her tremendously.
Yeah. And it's hard, I can't even imagine, because I don't even have children at all.
Yeah.
But you move through, again, one day at a time.
Right.
One day at a time and feel the feelings. You're going to be sad. You're going to be angry, whatever the feelings that are coming up, they're valid. So helping them validate the feelings and being there, and really just being there to listen and hold their hand.
Right. And
know that pain's never going away.
Yeah. That's what I say. I'm working on a fourth book, and there's a chapter. I wrote 7 short little stories, and there's a chapter about a couple that loses their child at 20 years of age. And that's, the whole message in part of the message in the chapter is moving from hurt to healing, right? Because when you're just focused on hurt, there's no motion forward.
Right.
Healing is that forward motion, and hurt is still within healing. It's just a different focus. So I agree with you. Yeah, that hurt never goes away. The people that I've seen move through that when they have the tragic loss is, as you say, they acknowledge the brutal pain of loss. And the other things they do is they're thankful. for the gift that they had for that time. And the other thing that's really important for people to focus on, if you're experiencing with this, is understand that energy that was in that young person, that soul, that spirit, that life force is still available.
Yeah.
We can, there's a fine line between here and there. Trust me, because I stepped over it. There's a fine line. I mean, I feel my friends and people that have passed, I feel them so much. I talk to them. I pray to them. They send me signs of cardinals and numbers. And I just have an absolute feeling in every cell in my body that they, right, not the human, but they're still here. Yeah. They're just going like you. They're saying, all right, take a breath, Danny. Take another one. Everything's going to be okay. Just it's good. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. My mom shows up in my dreams. In fact, she was in one last night. Cool. So she shows up a lot. Yeah. Well, pretty frequently.
I think that is great, man. I love that. I love that your whole approach moving from fine to fantastic in that course and all. Before we, I want to ask, 3 things you would leave people with, right? Three really valuable principles in life that they should consider. And before we get there, Lori, where can people go find out more about you and your work and your courses and all those things?
Yeah. So my podcast is called Fine is a 4-letter word. And that's available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Right.
My company is called Zen Rabbit.
I like that because, mine is called Jack Rabbit. So
that's right. So the rabbit meeting of the rabbits.
That's it. Yeah. Zen Rabbit.
Zenrabbit.com.
Okay.
And then I'm on all the socials. Instagram is Zen Rabbit. LinkedIn under my name, Lori Saitz.
Right. So you do speaking, you do some coaching, you've got the course. Okay, great. So if anybody out there needs a speaker or anything for a virtual or
I love speaking. Give me a microphone. That was my original major in college was broadcast, and I have some radio background, and
that's cool. Yeah.
Put me on a stage. Let's go.
Yeah, I hear you. All in service to others too, right? Which is wonderful.
Because I love the energy exchange.
That's it.
That happens when you're on a stage.
Yeah. Everything is energy. I agree 100% with that. So if you're having lunch with somebody and you're never going to see them again, you're both going to go separate ways and live wonderful life. And they say to you, Lori, what's like 3 things that I should really hold close to myself as I continue on this journey of life? Three pieces of wisdom. What would you offer them?
We deserve joy. I mean, that to me, that's our purpose here. That is the overarching purpose for everyone, is to live a joyful life.
We deserve
whatever that is. Yeah. And that you deserve it.
Right.
So a lot of people don't think they deserve to have joy.
I like that one. We deserve joy. Good.
You deserve joy. Yeah.
What's number 2?
So do anything you can to find it. Number 2 is going back to something you said earlier about friends. To keep your friends, value friendships, relationships, value and hold on to those relationships. Certainly, if they're still serving you, if they're not, let them go. But there's nothing better than having those friends to surround you, to celebrate and to hold you up when you need, when you're in a hard place, a challenging place.
Right. I like it. We deserve joy. Focus on your strong relationships, friend and family. What's the 3rd one? They're perfect.
The 3rd one is, what is the 3rd one? I think it comes back to that whole idea of allowing yourself to get quiet and to hear your inner voice, because that's where you're going to find your strength and your groundedness.
Right. That's perfect. I love all 3 of those, right? We deserve joy. And that's going to be my thought now as I kind of wrap my week up here. I'm down at the beach in New Jersey, and I'll take a little bike ride over to the beach.
Yeah, no, you're not you're down the shore.
Down the shore. Yeah. No, I still say beach. I don't know why.
I know you said that.
We said that.
But you're in Jersey, so it's down the shore.
We're in Jersey. That's right. And so that's cool. We deserve joy. I love that. Stay in touch with your relationships. So that's the outward energy. And then, as you said, go inward. So I really love that. I really love it. That's cool. Well, Lori, listen, thanks a lot. I enjoyed chatting with you. I'm glad that our paths crossed, and I know we'll stay connected now. And I'm sure that the audience as well. We'll get a few things that they can work on and do the work. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you, Danny.
You got it. You got it. And remember, everybody, until next time, there is a hell of a difference between just living and being fully alive. Take care. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of our Back to Life podcast. I'm fairly certain that you've picked up 2 or 3 things from Lori's experience and her insight and her coaching that you will begin to experiment with in your life and implement some things. And all of this designed to create a life where you're living more into your purpose, you're doing more things that bring you joy. So thanks again for listening. I wish you all the best. Be sure to like, comment, share this, stay in touch with us, and just remember, there is a hell of a difference between just living and being fully alive. Until next time, take care.